The iron gates of Riverton Oaks, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in Connecticut, rarely opened for anyone who didn't belong. Inside the gates were quiet, tree-lined streets, perfectly trimmed hedges, and enormous houses that looked like they belonged in magazines. Luxury SUVs and sports cars rolled slowly past manicured lawns. Every resident there had one thing in common: wealth. And according to many of them, there was another rule: everyone who belonged there looked a certain way. On a warm Saturday afternoon, the neighborhood park was peaceful. Children played near the fountain while residents walked their dogs along the paved path. Then, someone noticed him. A black man sitting alone on a wooden bench near the edge of the park. His clothes were simple: slightly worn jeans, a plain hoodie, scuffed sneakers. He wasn't bothering anyone. He wasn't asking for money. He simply sat quietly, watching the neighborhood. But to some of the residents, that was already suspicious. A woman named Karen Whitmore slowed her steps as she walked her small white dog past the bench. Her eyes narrowed immediately. She leaned toward her friend. "Do you know him?" Her friend shook her head. "No. And people like him don't usually come through the gates." Karen glanced again. The man calmly looked around the park, almost like he was studying the place. That made her even more uncomfortable. Within minutes, whispers began spreading through the park. "Who is that guy? Does he live here? I've never seen him before." A man watering his lawn across the street walked closer to get a better look. "He looks homeless," he muttered. Karen pulled out her phone. "I'm calling security." The neighborhood had its own private patrol service that monitored the gates. She dialed the number. "Yes, there's a suspicious man sitting in the park. I don't think he belongs here." The operator asked a few questions. Karen lowered her voice. "He looks like he might be homeless." The operator promised to send someone across the park. The man remained calm. He noticed people staring. He noticed the whispers. But he didn't react. 10 minutes later, a white security vehicle rolled into the park parking lot. 2 guards stepped out. They walked directly toward the bench. One of them crossed his arms. "Sir," the man looked up calmly. "Yes, you can't sit here." The man raised an eyebrow slightly. "Why not?" "This is private property," the guard said. "I'm aware. Then you should leave." The man didn't move. "I'm just sitting." The guard's tone hardened. "We've received complaints." "Complaints about what?" The guard hesitated. "Residents feel uncomfortable." The man slowly looked around the park at the people watching from a distance. "I see." The second guard stepped forward. "Sir, if you don't leave, we'll have to call the police." The man sighed softly. "Call them if you feel you need to." The guards exchanged a look. Most people left immediately when security arrived, but this man didn't move. One guard grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, call local police." Within minutes, the tension in the park grew. Residents gathered quietly, watching from a distance. Some recorded on their phones. Karen folded her arms proudly. "I told you he didn't belong here." 10 minutes later, 2 police cruisers rolled through the park entrance. Officers stepped out. The crowd immediately relaxed. Authority had arrived. One officer approached the bench. "Sir, we've had reports that you're trespassing." The man looked up calmly. "I'm not trespassing." "Do you live here?" "No." "Then you need to leave." The officer gestured toward the gate. "This is private property." The man studied the officer for a moment. "Interesting." "What's interesting?" The man slowly stood. He was taller than most people realized while he was sitting, nearly 6'3". He calmly brushed dust from his jeans. "Before I leave, can I ask something?" The officer crossed his arms. "What? Did anyone ask why I'm here?" The officer frowned. "We received a complaint." "That's enough." The man nodded slowly. "I see." At that exact moment, something unexpected happened. A deep rumbling sound echoed from the main road. Engines. Multiple engines' heads turned toward the gated entrance. Seconds later, the gates opened, and a line of black SUVs began driving into the neighborhood. 1, 2, 3. 4 luxury vehicles rolled slowly toward the park. Residents looked confused. The convoy stopped right beside the bench. Drivers stepped out. Men in sharp suits, professional, serious. One of them hurried toward the man who had been sitting on the bench. "Mr. Cartner." Suddenly, the entire park went quiet. The man nodded calmly. "Good timing." The suited man glanced at the police officers. "Is there a problem here?" The officers looked confused. "Who are you?" The man in the suit turned back toward the bench. "This is Mr. Marcus Carter." Some residents frowned. They had never heard the name before. The suited man continued. "The owner of Carter Development Group." Still silence. Then someone gasped. "Carter Development Group, the company that had recently purchased hundreds of acres of land around Riverton Oaks." One officer blinked. "Way, the development company?" The suited man nodded. "Yes." He turned toward Marcus Carter respectfully. "The board members are waiting, sir." Suddenly Karen Whitmore's face lost color, because she remembered something from last week's neighborhood meeting. Developers had purchased the land surrounding the community, and, today, they were supposed to begin reviewing properties inside the neighborhood for a luxury expansion project. The officer slowly looked back at Marcus. "You're the developer." Marcus gave a small smile. "That's correct." The park was completely silent now. The same residents who had whispered minutes earlier stood frozen. Marcus glanced around the neighborhood calmly. "I came early to see the community myself." His eyes rested briefly on Karen. "Unfortunately, it seems I made some people uncomfortable." No one spoke. The suited assistant opened the door of the SUV. "The council meeting starts in 10 minutes. Marcus nodded. Then he turned once more toward the offices. "You were just doing your job?" Then he looked at the residents watching from the distance. "But I do hope this community believes in fairness." He paused. "Because our company will soon decide which homes remain here, and which ones are purchased and redeveloped." The meaning landed like thunder. Some of the same residents who had called the police suddenly looked terrified. Karen's voice trembled. "Wait, purchase." Marcus nodded politely. "Our expansion project requires several properties." He stepped toward the SUV, then paused. "And we prioritize cooperation." He smiled gently. "Communities that welcome us tend to receive very generous offers." No one said another word. The convoy doors closed. Engines started. And as the SUVs drove away, the residents of Riverton Oaks realized something painful. The man they called the police on was the most powerful person they would meet that year. And the future of their neighborhood now rested in his hands. The convoy disappeared down the tree-lined street, but the silence it left behind in Riverton Oaks felt heavier than any sound. For a moment, no one moved. The same residents who had been whispering and recording only minutes earlier now stood frozen, staring at the empty road where the black SUVs had vanished. Karen Whitmore slowly lowered her phone. Her face had turned pale. "That can't be right," she muttered. But deep down, she already knew it was. Across the park, the two security guards looked equally uncomfortable. One of them rubbed the back of his neck nervously. "Did we just call the police on the owner of the development project?" The other guard sighed. "Looks like it." The police officers exchanged a glance. One of them quietly shook his head. "Well, that's going to be an interesting report too, right?" Within an hour, the entire neighborhood knew what had happened. Riverton Oaks had always been a place where gossip traveled faster than cars. Residents called each other. Messages flew through neighborhood group chats. Phones buzzed nonstop. "Did you hear what happened at the park? They called the police and the developer. The man sitting on the bench owns the entire expansion project." By late afternoon, the story had spread to every house in the community. Karen sat quietly near the back of the room, avoiding eye contact with everyone. For the first time since moving into Riverton Oaks, she felt unsure of herself. At exactly 7 o'clock, the double doors opened, and Marcus Carter walked in. The room felt completely silent. He was no longer wearing the worn hoodie from the park. Now he wore a tailored dark suit that fit him perfectly. Confident, professional, powerful. Behind him followed several members of his team, including the same assistant who had greeted him earlier. Marcus calmly approached the front of the room. He looked around at the dozens of faces staring back at him, some curious, some nervous, some embarrassed. Then he gave a polite nod. "Good evening, everyone." His voice was calm and steady. "I appreciate you all coming tonight." No one spoke. Marcus continued. "As many of you already know, my company recently acquired the surrounding land around Riverton Oaks. Our goal is to expand this community and develop several luxury residential projects." A few residents shifted nervously in their chairs. Marcus clicked a remote and a large screen behind him lit up with architectural plans. "This project could significantly increase property values in this area," he explained. "But development requires cooperation." His eyes slowly scanned the room, and for just a brief second, they rested on Karen. She immediately looked down at the floor. Marcus paused before continuing. "That's why today I decided to visit the neighborhood personally." He clasped his hands together. "I believe the best way to understand a community is simply to sit and observe it." A few residents shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew what he was referring to. Marcus let the silence hang in the air for a moment. Then he surprised everyone by smiling. "But I also believe in second chances." Several heads lifted. "My company doesn't judge communities based on one moment or one misunderstanding." The tension in the room slowly began to ease. Marcus stepped away from the podium. "I'm here because I believe Riverton Oaks has the potential to become one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in the state." Then he added one final sentence. "But great communities are built on something more valuable than money." He looked around the room once more. "They're built on respect." No one applauded right away, but many residents quietly lowered their eyes. Because in that moment, everyone in Riverton Oaks understood the same truth. The man they had judged in seconds had just shown them more dignity than they had shown him all afternoon. and that was a lesson the neighborhood would not forget anytime soon.